Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of South Texas News and Reviews. This is a Sunday, October the 11th, 2015, and I'm going to put the appropriate number of seconds on here. If you'll please notice, this is available on YouTube. Just go in and punch in Gerald Sansing, Gerald Sansing, and you can pull these shows up. And we're also on public access, and there's my email address if you need to contact me with any information or if you need some. Be right back. What we had was a 5-minute gap that we wanted to have in several of our shows on public access TV. And unfortunately, when we looked at the DVD that we had from a board meeting where Dr. Lee Sloan was disparaging our numbers and so forth and so on.
Oh, hold it. Those were his numbers.
Okay, disparaging his numbers that we had reported, then we figured out when I got the copy of the DVD of that meeting that it does have a copyright on the front. So in order not to infringe on anyone's copyright, particularly Del Mar College's, what we're going to do is splice this 5 minutes in and go ahead and discuss what Dr. Sloan was talking about, which was that our numbers, which were his numbers, were incorrect. So I don't understand what's going on, but maybe you can. You're the CPA and accountant.
I would like to say that I can, but doctor, I would be totally lying. So let me explain what I thought he was trying to say.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure what he was trying to say. He said the numbers I used were wrong, even though they appear in his annual financial report.
Okay.
He said you can't use them that way. Well, the numbers I used are the basic accounting formula. Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
Okay.
So that's what I was looking at, the change in equity between 2005 and 2015,
right,
which was somewhere between 68 and 73 million after restatement and considering the close for this year.
Okay.
So that's the change in equity. And how did equity change? Only one way. Revenues exceeded expenses for that period of time by that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we said because that's what his financial statement said.
Right.
Now, Dr. Stone was saying something about the net position is accumulation of all funds. Well, it will be all funds and all other assets minus all liabilities. That will be what's called net position or equity. We would generally refer to it as equity. So that was part of it, but
Well, let me ask you this: as a person with a BBA, Bachelor's in Business Administration, and a master's degree, not just an MBA, but a master's degree in accountancy.
Master's of Science Accountancy.
Okay, all right. And then, 30 years now as a CPA?
More than that, actually.
Okay.
More than 30
with
years.
With some of the biggest companies around.
With starting out with a big 8 CPA firm,
okay,
which basically hires the top 10% of the graduates from college.
Okay. Well, let me ask you just very bluntly, yes or no. Did you understand what Dr. Sloan was trying to say?
No.
Okay.
No, I was not able to follow him. I think I know what he was looking at. I couldn't quite interpret it the way he was trying to interpret it. And when he said that you can't look at our financials, which is his financials, he's the author.
Right.
He and Mr. Johnson are the authors
right.
of those financial statements. You can't look at his numbers that way. That's the basic accounting formula.
Okay.
That's how everybody looks at accounting numbers.
Right.
Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
Right.
Revenue minus expenses equals net profit.
Right.
That's how we analyzed it.
Well, when I came through, my mathematics may be lacking with all the way through differential equations and a graduate class in statistics, but still, when I add 2 plus 2, it comes up 4.
And this was clearly arithmetic. This is not math. This is arithmetic.
Okay. All right.
Assets minus liabilities equal equity, which they call net position.
Okay.
Revenue minus operating expenses equal net profit. That's all we were talking about.
That's right.
And
Okay, well, I
what was he
understand
talking
that.
about?
I don't know.
He wasn't talking about that.
No.
And what was he talking about? Well, we've looked at it several times now.
Right.
And I can tell you, I don't know.
Okay. Well, so in order to protect everybody from copyright, and Lord knows I don't want to infringe upon a copyright with Del Mar College on this public broadcast of the Board of Regents meetings that day. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see this, then you can order a copy of the DVD of that particular Board of Regents meeting. I've got one, and that's when we saw the copyright on the label that they did.
And it is available on the internet as well.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they posted it on the internet.
So if you'd like to try to figure out what this was all about with Dr. Sloan, then please go in and look it up.
And Doctor, I can't figure out what he was saying, but I did catch one thing. We said, based on his numbers, and they are his numbers, that they had increased the equity, which is the net position, over that period of time by somewhere between $68 and $73 million.
Right.
He said, no, we only increased our surplus by $28 million.
Okay.
Okay, now he said only $28 million. As a professor that didn't get a raise for approximately 6 years, does that make you feel much more comfortable that it only increased by about $28 million?
No, not
Okay.
at all. And it's
And that's not the right number anyway.
Well, it's just not me, but there are an awful lot of good folks over there that needed a raise, folks. They worked their hearts out over there. You know, I mean, here I am, 26, 27 years into this as a second career. But it's a shame when I have people, custodians and so forth, that are fired by Del Mar College, and then several of them are brought back at a lesser amount of money, and they're working their hearts out over there. So that's what galls me.
And when we talk about surplus in a cash flow reference, okay, now what that's going to be is revenue minus expenses minus acquisition of fixed assets such as our 95 acres of land.
Of land that we don't need.
Well, that we're trying to maintain, but the tractor got stuck.
Yeah, it bogs down. When it rains out there, it's a swampland, folks, so they get bogged down.
So I'd like to argue with this set of Dr. Sloan's numbers versus the set that we used.
Right.
But I can attest that the set that we used came right out of his annual report, and they mean exactly what we said they mean. And we checked him. They were his numbers, but we checked them. They made perfect sense to us.
Right.
Now, what he has said here, we've watched it several times, and it still makes absolutely no sense to me.
Okay. Well, I guess we better leave it at that, and I'm sorry for the splice that we have to put into this show, but, you know, stuff happens, and hey.
And if anyone can figure out what he says, if you watch the DVD, email us.
Please.
We're very, very interested.
Right. Mine's gsansing@gmail.com.
And you can reach me at ed@southtexasmis.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to continue on with this, and I hope that you could understand what Dr. Sloan was trying to tell the Board of Regents up there with all that smoke and mirrors and saying that, you know, misrepresentations were made on the part of Mr. Bennett. I don't think so, folks. You'll never find a more seasoned and well-educated accountant around than Mr. Bennett, and he knows what he's talking about. So call your regents and say, wake up, folks, would you get somebody to come in and explain that to you? And then I'll talk about the amount of money now that we have for an internal auditor. We can't get one, have not had one until now. Last year's budget for accounting for Del Mar College to go over the records and certify all of that good stuff was $43,000 in 2014, 2015, and now 2015, 2016, they've decided to hire an outside part-time accounting firm to act as an internal auditor, and the budget for that for this next coming year is $310,000. Now that's a quantum leap from 43,000 to 310, so something must be up. And I think that the efforts from BS Investigations, that's Mr. Bennett and Sansing, you're looking at him, I guess maybe we've stirred the pot a little bit, but that's what it takes at Del Mar College, folks. I've got to go over there and film tall grass. We've got a horrible, horrible groundskeeper over there. Grass gets up about knee high in certain places. Where it really galled me was over there at the Early Childhood Center, where kids have got to go out and they're scratching and so forth. I've got witnesses to that fact, that have kids that go over there and they're playing in tall, wet grass, and it's a miserable thing to watch, okay? Besides, the grounds look like the Dickens over there. So I have to go and get my camera out and go film some of that stuff in order to get it done. Now, another topic I would like to raise with Del Mar College is the lack of response in a timely manner to Public Information Act requests. I am a tax-paying citizen, folks, okay? I just happen to be making my living at Del Mar College, and now that I found out that I'm 33% lower than the average in town, and I'm a little bit perturbed about that with no raises. I think they're going to give us a 7% raise this year, which isn't going to come close to closing that gap up. Okay? And I have read some of these on the air before where people have requested information from Del Mar College, and it goes through a person over there who's the Executive Director of Human Resources and Administration, and is also the College Public Information Act Request Officer, okay? And here's what we get a lot of time, okay? In response to your PIA request, the college is seeking an Attorney General opinion for responsive documents requested in the fourth bullet point on behalf of Del Mar College, and under separate cover you will receive or be receiving a copy of a letter concerning the request for an AG opinion from the law firm of Graves, Daughtry, Heron, and Moody. Now, Mr. Christian with that firm is the attorney that they turn to. He's $400 per hour, and then every time somebody makes a request, I guess they have to clear it with him and make sure, because we don't know. And then we have another firm here, Dunn, Weathered, somebody in Rivera. Mr. Augustin Rivera was with that firm. He's been the college attorney for the board, essentially, for quite some time, about 12 years probably plus. That firm with Mr. Dunn in charge over there has been making a pretty handy living at Del Mar College by handling this, that, and the other, but now they contract things out, ship it up to Graves Daughtry at $400 an hour. It's $175 here. And then when they do consult, I've got the bills to back it up, then Dunn, Weathered, and so forth, and Casparitas, I think, or something like that, in Rivera, we're billing $175 an hour to be on the phone at $400,000 an hour with Graves Daughtry, et cetera, up there with Mr. Christian. And then I had a problem. I was lied about by my department chair and my dean, and I had a disciplinary action letter, or whatever we want to call it, a disciplinary letter stuck in my file on bogus charges. I asked for all the information that I needed to clear my name with that and to prove that they had lied about me. And all of a sudden, bam, now it went through the Attorney General's office. They were supposed to give me the information. They went ahead and hustled up my appeal to that disciplinary letter that's in my file right now, so that I couldn't get the information I needed. And now they're going through the Graves, Daughtry, Heron, and whoever up there in Austin, Mr. Christian, and they're suing the Attorney General to keep that information away from me after the Attorney General said give it to me. So that's $400 an hour, folks, and they're going to go to court. How much is that costing you people? Okay, I don't know, but the whole thing's a big sham over there. And the only people that are getting ahead at Del Mar College, unfortunately, are the attorneys, okay? Plus a few administrators who have had some pretty substantial raises while the rest of us were not given any. Okay? So our question with BS Investigations, Mr. Bennett and myself, is why, if we had excess funds of $68 million over 11 years, couldn't the college afford a raise to bring us up to at least state averages? Now, they've got the president, and they've given him raise after raise after raise, and I've sat there and listened to him say that we need to compensate him at the same level as most of the other presidents in this state. What about the faculty members? What about the secretaries? What about the clerical people over there, folks? What about the custodians? They fired the custodial group. We'll come to that in a minute if I've got time. But what about the workers, the porters over there? They fired a bunch of custodians and groundskeepers. They hired a miserable company, a custodial service. And then what happens after that is they hire several of the groundskeepers and custodians back at even lesser wage. They're no longer vested and so forth and so on. And they hired them at a lower price, okay? Because those people can't afford to go without a job and some benefits, folks. So, you know, it's pretty miserable over there when you come back down to the bottom line. Now, another thing I'm doing is I have got a outline here. It's called the fraud tree. It's from Financial Statement Fraud, from the Fraud Examiner's Manual. And I'm going through this to find out, you know, with all that surplus money, if I can detect that maybe there was something going on there, and then hiring this custodial service and hiring the groundskeepers and so forth, because we've asked specifically for information pertaining to that, and they say they're going to have to delay it because they need more time to pull information out of the files. Now, I would think that a prudent college administration would have all those files in order and figure out what's going on. Now, let me give you an example of the shenanigans that are going on over there. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of anything up to and including fraud. I want to go on public record as saying that. But there is a dead rat in the wood pile somewhere, folks. Something just does not add up. Now, back in August of 2013, and I've saddled this horse before and rode it on this show, okay, I uncovered some documents, but I had a funny feeling at a workshop, a Board of Regents workshop, when our Chief Financial Officer made a request of the board to sanction a very large write-off of a certain amount of money as a bad debt. So I pursued that, and in this 5-foot stack of paper, I found the needle in the haystack. But this was it says A/R, okay, third-party receivables to be written off. And it lists some people here, okay. Now, some of this is pretty large money. One of them that stuck out like a sore thumb with me was $89,073.50, okay. And that was written off because it was claimed as a bad debt that the Coastal Bend Council of Governments owed Delmar College that much money, and they couldn't collect it. Okay. Now, at that council, or at that workshop, Dr. Sloan told the people there, I think that's on tape, that can be proven, that all measures were exhausted as far as collection methods were. And then I asked for any letters for demand for payment, any lawsuits or whatever, any collection activities, and there were none in that stack of 5-foot paperwork that I got. So that kind of tweaked my curiosity a little bit. Then on the same page, we've got the Texas A&M University, Kingsville, for $54,267.29. Okay. Now we've asked Kingsville, we've asked the Council of Governments to show us any paperwork where they may have, Delmar has informed them that they owed that and that they tried to collect it from them, and then they refused to pay it. Now, the Council of Governments ignored Public Information Act request for that information, to the point where we finally got the Attorney General's office to step in and tell them that yes, you are responsible to answer Public Information Act requests in the state of Texas, so give us the information. Okay? So I get a letter back. This is actually my partner did. Okay? And it states from the AG's office that they have, that the people at the Council of Governments, Mr. John P. Buckner, has signed an affidavit stating that I, John P. Buckner, as Officer for Public Information for Coastal Bend Council of Governments, certify I have conducted a good faith search of information that this government body owns, controls, or has a right to access, or a right of access to, and I have found no such information that is responsive to the request of, and it gives the Office of the Attorney General Office ID number. That was their request and their demand to get that stuff done. Okay? So I turned around and I said, well, you know, I'm not going to let this one die on the vine. Something just does not add up. Okay? And I get this letter, or I file a document, a Public Information Act request through Dr. Mark Escamilla, president of Del Mar College. They received this on September 23rd, 2015. And I said that I've got the exhibits here that show that the Council of Governments and Texas A&M University Kingsville owed Del Mar College these huge sums of money. And then I said, through the Public Information Act request, I said I would like to have any and all documents, etc., that were used by Del Mar College to produce the attached Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2. Those were the write-off papers that went to the board, indicating that an $89,073.50 debt existed, and any documentation of attempted collections by Del Mar College and or its assigns. Its assigns means any of their attorneys or collection agency or somebody that was designed to do that. Okay. My second request on this, or my second asking for, let's put it that way, on my original request here, September 23rd, any and all documents, etc., that were used by Del Mar College to produce the attached Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, those were the ones showing the write-off, indicating that Texas A&M Kingsville, I assume Texas A&M University Kingsville, in parentheses, owed Del Mar College a debt of $54,267.29. Okay? And any documentation of attempted collections by Del Mar College and or its assigns. Now, today is the 11th of October. Okay? Now, I get this letter sent to me on the 7th, which is the 10 days that they are required to get this stuff to me. And it's thanking me. This is from Tammy McDonald, Executive Director, Human Resources and Administration, and the College Public Information Act Officer. And it states, thank you for your Public Information Act. I'm sure that's sincere. Okay. Now, in response to your PIA request, the college will need additional time to assemble responsive documents. We anticipate having a response to you no later than Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. My office will contact you when responsive documents are available for your review as per your request. And then they still have a little bit of time to get Graves, Daughtry, and so forth, attorneys out of Austin, Mr. Christian, to file a a request for opinion through the Attorney General's office. Okay? So there you go, folks. Something is not adding up to me. Now I want to jump into this too. 2 years ago, roughly, I had some real good friends and fellow faculty members that were in the Buddy Venner's business building. Okay? Now that building's probably 15, 20 years old, that vintage, and it's named after the president of Del Mar College that was there when I came in, the one Mr. Buddy Venner's. Okay? He was a CPA, he had an MBA and so forth. And when a president was relieved of duty, he stepped in as temporary president, and he was doing a good job, and the board promoted him and said, we want you for the permanent president of Del Mar College. And he was the president when I was hired. Okay? Then when he retired, they were building that new building that houses business and computer science and all the rest of those, and they named it after him, which is, that was a good thing to do. Okay, that was a very prudent move on their part. But 2 years ago, I had some people that had offices on the 3rd floor of that building. It's up where the return air is sucked in. You need to take a little bit of fresh air and blend it in with the air conditioned air, and to give you a little bit of exchange and keep some of the bad gases down and so forth, not build up too much carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. So they called me and said, we're sick up here. We're having an allergic reaction to something, and can you come up here and see what it is? Well, I won't go into my background for the 15th time on this show, but I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to air quality and the identification of various molds, which are fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms. And I had a thriving business here for a number of years in Corpus Christi, Texas, where I was sampling buildings. I could determine what the organisms were if there was a problem, air contamination. I could tell surface contamination and whether they were toxic producing mold or not. That's my background in industry, okay, for a long number of years in graduate school. So I informed the people that stuff that was blowing out of the air conditioning ducts at night were high level concentration of fungal spores, dust, dirt, and other debris. Okay? And that the one organism that I cultured out in that was highly allergenic. It's known to be. It's called Cladosporium. That's the genus it belongs to. There are several different species. Now, I went to the administration and I told them that that place was a mess. They came in with a testing group that they listened to that said that no, it wasn't contaminated, that the only thing that was producing fungal spores, the mold spores, were a planter on the 1st floor of that building in this big 3-story atrium. Okay. Now folks, that could have contributed a little bit to it, but it was coming out of the air conditioning ducts. They were contaminated. They had stuff growing in them and blowing stuff out on people's desks overnight and on top of them during the day. Now, the claim to fame, the person that did the testing over there had a high school degree from Kingsville High School. And he also said that they shouldn't have this air freshener plugged into the wall because that causes problems. And when we looked at the pictures, that was actually the battery for an emergency flashlight that a faculty member had in her office, and she was sick. In fact, she's been out for almost 3 or 4 months now. Okay, she has allergies and asthma problems. Now, it took an act of Congress to get somebody to go in there and decide to change out the air conditioning ducts in that entire building. Now, I was in great horror when I saw these carts full of these contaminated ducts that they'd yanked out, roll down the hall without any containment whatsoever, dust and spores and everything flying everywhere, little pieces of fiberglass insulation. They're made out of fiberglass, and hauled out and dumped in a dumpster to be blown all over campus. Okay. Now, I think I know enough after 40 some odd years in the microbiological business, particularly with an expertise from 1968 on in toxic molds and bacteria. I think that I know what I'm talking about when you're supposed to contain that. Okay? Now, the only reason I was not licensed in the state of Texas for air quality and mold remediation and so forth identification was that the state couldn't figure out that a PhD in microbiology and a second in biochemistry and extensive research in toxic molds and the production of chemicals by fungi and bacteria, aka antibiotics, in the industrial research for a number of years, that I didn't know, that PhD had to be looked at and see if it was equivalent to a bachelor's degree in biology. So I hung up the phone, and I did not get a license through the state of Texas if they have boneheads at that level up there that don't know the difference. Okay? So, but I did, prior to them demanding a license, I've tested over 500 structures in Corpus Christi alone, that's houses, buildings, and so forth, and had the reputation because of my background and knowing what I'm doing. So when I told them at Del Mar College that they had that problem, somebody finally got off their butts over there and hired a company out of Austin. Okay? Or no, I guess they're San Antonio. Okay? Now, here is a couple of 120 some odd pages of results from that, and I can find no meaning of this whatsoever. Okay? Now, in the presentation of this a while back, a couple of weeks ago, on a Friday, sponsored by Del Mar College, to all the people in the Venters building and anybody else that wanted to be there, then the owner of this company, Mr. Bill T. no, wait a minute, that's not him. Wilson is the architect coordinating architect for Del Mar. Mr. Ronald M. Bishop, who has a master's in public health, and he's a certified industrial hygienist. Okay, a lot of people around here with those credentials. And he gave a presentation, and it was an insult to me and an insult to the people that were in that building. And as far as I'm concerned, I referred to the presentation of this mold study and remediation study as being a farce. Now, I can't believe that he would condone having ductwork piled up in the stairwells over there that were contaminated. I took samples of them, folks. I've got photographs and everything else, just in case. Okay? And then I went over the other day, and on the last show that I filmed about 2 weeks ago, I showed a vent that's sitting on the second floor of Del Mar College. I know you watched this show, okay? And I wish that one of you administrators would go over there, like Dr. Mark Escamilla, and go take a little step ladder and go up there and look in that little vent that's right next to room 255 in the Buddy Venters building, that second floor, and that's a little alcove there, a little cut in the wall where the payphones used to hang. Just look up there and look at the condition of that after you spent, what, $250,000, maybe $300,000 to have all that stuff cleaned up and so forth, and that thing's filthy. And I just happen to have, let's see, where did I put them? I just happen to have those samples here that I took, the tape samples, and I'm going to culture some of that stuff out. I've got swab samples, okay? And we'll see what goes on, okay? So I've got those samples right here. So all you do is you take a piece of clear tape and you stick it up in there. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's solid grunge and dust and fungal spores right there, folks. I've already microscopically examined that. Okay. So I guess, I don't know how many more times Del Mar College needs to be duped over there with some of these experts. I would have done it for nothing, and I could have shown them how to get it out just to save the health of my friends over there. Okay? And they're people that have some real problems, respiratory problems and allergic reactions over there. So, I don't know what it takes at Del Mar College. I guess an act of Congress or something. It's just unbelievable to me what they won't do. And then we can't get the grass cut on a timely manner, and custodial services are hit and miss a lot of times. And like I say, I don't know where to go from there. Then I'd like to say a few words about voter registration. I have been certified to do that. I think my certification's up. I need to go back through that. But I do know that some people that are heavily involved with the League of Women Voters, which is a fabulous group around here, folks. It is nonpartisan and so forth. And they've had a time out on at Texas A&M University of Corpus Christi, with them, I don't know if they've reversed this or not. What they wanted to do is, if you were going to go out there and sit in a chair and try to register students and people over in the student center, they required $1 million insurance policy with the university as a beneficiary to go over there. I don't know who they thought was going to fall down and bust themselves and break a leg on a table, or maybe break their fingers when they were signing their voter registration cards. Okay? But they've been trying to register people out there. Now, I don't know if currently, I may have been told the other day that there's a possibility that they're coming around, but I think Dr. Killebrew, you know, Del Mar allows people to go over there from the legal women's voters and other people and register students to vote. It's a very important thing. So I don't know why they don't want people to do that out at A&M. So, you know, they're taxpayer supported, big time folks, University of Texas and Texas A&M under the umbrella up there. You know, they get an awful lot of tax money and revenues to keep those places open. And then to dissuade anyone from trying to get people to vote, maybe they're afraid that some of these people will get voted out. I hope that the Board of Regents members at Del Mar College are a little bit concerned about the next go-around in voting. And folks, go vote. Get off your backsides and go out there and you know, it's very, very simple. But I have people sitting around, oh, well, I don't want to vote because it isn't going to do me any good and I can't change anything. Well, a lot of people died for your right to go vote, folks. Okay, a lot of people have fought real hard for your right to do that, and I think you owe those people and your fellow taxpayers the opportunity of you to go over there and vote. Okay, I don't care if you don't see things the way I do, and you're going to vote for somebody I'm not interested in or don't want in there, but at least get up off your butt and go vote. Okay, and if you need to, contact me at gsansing@gmail.com, and I will put you in contact with somebody that'll probably drop by and register you to vote. Okay, and then there are people who will pick you up if you're housebound and so forth and so on and take you to a voting place. But let somebody know, and the League of Women's Voter is a very good place to start. So I'm just gonna, I said I would throw this out and just see if Dr. Killebrew can answer a question. I think I'll just go ahead and write him if the people involved want me to go ahead and write him about that. Okay, but I thought I'd throw that out at you. And I don't know where these college and university presidents, and I think they've got this unlimited power to go out and do things like that. Okay, now, local paper, Sunday, October 11th, that's today. Plan Corpus Christi 2035 public hearing set. So what we're going to do, development to be eyed at City Council meeting. This is a 20-year plan to plan out what's going to happen in Corpus Christi, Texas. Now, we're still sitting here on our fannies as a city council, twiddling our thumbs and talking a big game about what we're going to do as far as sprucing this town up, fixing the roads and stuff. And I'm sure that we're going to go on for many more months just listening to all that chin music, is what I was told it used to be. That's an old Texas phrase. That means their lips moving. Okay, that's when you can tell when they're not really telling you the truth, is when their lips start moving. And so we're going to have all these public hearings and so forth and so on. Now, I doubt very seriously that we're going to be any further down the road except kicking that can down there than we are when we get through with this. But it'll be this upcoming Tuesday down at City Hall. Okay, this will be on YouTube before that, but I don't think it's going to be on the air until the week after that. So it'll be over and done with. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. Okay. Now, another thing that I've got a problem with is Mr. Risley or Risley, however he pronounces his name, who's the city attorney that took over for one Carlos Valdez. Okay? Now, Carlos Valdez is the one that filed a lawsuit against me and 4 of my friends, and we're called the Friends of the Coliseum because we had the unmitigated gall several years ago to file with Judge Klager a halt in the demolition of the Memorial Coliseum. And we had 200 people that signed a petition, and the 5 of us went down and we signed a $30,000 bond. It should have been about $500 to $600 bond, maybe $1,000 at the most. But welcome to Corpus Christi, Texas. Now, Mr. Valdez said that the city had incurred expenses during that 30 days in the halt of that tear down. Now, in the meantime, I've got documentation that the city had contracted with a demolition company. The demolition company was supposed to completely stop any demolition activities, but I do know that their employees were over there at night ripping copper out of that building and continued ripping the inside apart. Okay? So, Mr. Risley, I do have sworn affidavits to that effect. Now, Mr. Carlos Valdez said that what he wanted to do is he wanted to prevent and make sure that citizens understand that you're not going to go down and sue the city for anything and get away with it. Okay? He's going to put an end to citizens suing the city. Now, I don't know if you can digest that or not. Okay? Who paid his salary when he was down there? Who paid his salary when he was district attorney? Okay? Who paid his salary when he was county attorney? You tell me. Okay? All right. Now, so I don't know where that suit is, but along comes Mr. Risley. Oh, and then Mr. Valdez said that even though we had it in a contract with the demolition company, that no one incurred any expenses or they were not damaged, no damages if a court-ordered demolition halt was ordered, which it was, but he says we still owed him the damages of $60,000. The bond was for $30,000, which was outrageous anyway. Okay? So he said we owed that money, and that there no citizen in this town, taxpayer or citizen, has any vested interest in any contract that the city makes through the legal department with any contractor. That's your money, ladies and gentlemen. And this man stood up there with, just full face with his little smirk, and he said that. Okay? And he's going to punish anybody that tries to sue the city. Then Mr. Risley at one time said that he was going to take it since the 13th Court of Appeals turned down an appeal that we did not owe that money. So they contended that they agreed with the court and said that that we didn't. Okay, so they wanted to go ahead and run it into the Supreme Court. Now I don't know if it's been done or not. I haven't been able to figure it out. I guess I'll find out one day. But here's Mr. Risley. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just going to call him Risley until I'm corrected. I don't know the man. I've seen him at one of the council meetings sitting there grinning next to Mr. Olson a lot. But anyway, so here's on the 4th of October, here's a little wake-up call here in the Caller Times. It says, City civil lawsuit payouts decline. Mayor cites legal team's forward stance. The city of Corpus Christi pays out hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to settle civil lawsuits, but the amount doled out has shrunk recently with City Hall leadership determined to contest litigation, officials said. Okay. Public records show a steep drop-off in settlement amounts paid after 2011. The year city manager Ron Olson was hired, and Mayor Nelda Martinez attributes that to Olson, former city attorney Carlos Valdez, and current city attorney Miles Risley. He is saving the taxpayers' money, Martinez said of Risley. If they find there is no merit to the litigation, they will fight the litigation. Okay. Well, if there's no merit to the litigation that you filed against me, folks. I'm going to make damn sure that you understand that, okay? So if the 13th Court of Appeals is wrong on 2 counts, and you didn't file it with the Attorney General, then I think you owe me all of that money that I had to pay to fight you people in your bogus lawsuit against me. So when are you going to square up with my attorney? Okay. I mean, my attorney didn't do that for nothing. Okay. But anyway, this is horrifying to me. So what they're going to do is if someone has a legal claim against the city, then I'm sure that Mr. Risley and Mr. Olson are going to go and spend a whole bunch of taxpayers' money trying to stave off lawsuits against the city. Now, they didn't say how much money they didn't pay out to the claimants. They did, and you know, or they did state that much. But how much are we how much is it costing us with outside legal counsel? Seems to me in 2014, our records under Public Information Act request indicated that we paid out about $3.5 million to outside firms outside of the city of Corpus Christi in legal fees. Unbelievable. Okay, let me take a sip of this and I'll go ahead and rave on. City may take snapshot of streets. Okay? Now they're going to spend $372,000 to have a company come in and drive all of the 1,234 miles of roads within the city limits and take snapshots and run some, I don't know what other tests they've got in here. They were talking about ultrasound or UV light or something. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not real familiar with what that's all about. It's going to be more of a real-time approach, and it's going to be less subjective because it's automated. Those are the 2 big advantages, and this comes from Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering. I guess that's for the city. Okay? So we're going to pay $372,000 to go out and take snapshots of the roads. Now, I think the easiest thing to do, oh, and they did say that it would take the city 3 years to have the city street people go and do the same thing. It'd take about 3 years for them to do that. Okay, program that one in. Now, I do know that every week there are trucks driving every square inch of the roads in Corpus Christi, Texas. They're called the garbage trucks. So why doesn't the city invest? I don't think it would cost $372,000 to attach some video cameras, put them on the front bumpers of those trucks, and then go ahead and have them run their routes. And then you can also put them on the recycling trucks that drive that every 2 weeks. I mean, every square inch of road in Corpus Christi, Texas. So why are we spending this kind of money? Okay, I guess maybe I need to figure out if there's anybody that's invested in that company that works for the city. Okay. All right, you get my drift. And then we have finding positivity in potholes. This was by Ron McKenzie. This was back in late September, and I don't think I read this one on here. But it says, finding positivity in potholes. Oops, I just traversed another of Corpus Christi's famed potholes. Then I thought, why should I utter the usual expletive when my mother always urged me to be positive in life? Following are examples of possible creative and constructive courses of action when feeling the jolts. Number 1, proclaim proudly, sparkling city. 2, remind yourself that you had not just paid a toll. 3, render a prayer of thanks that your windshield hasn't been white splashed by a seagull. 4, resolve to organize a neighborhood volunteer fix our streets movement. And then number 5, don't worry, be happy. And then it says here also, Lionel Lopez said, he's a retired firefighter, he said overtaxed by city and county. And then there was another one, local government slow to act. This is called the American Disabilities Act. And I should have mentioned that before, but we still do not have that meeting between Mr. Jack Gordy, who's vice president of the Corpus Christi taxpayers, and the Department of Justice. They're the ones that have the American Disabilities Act enforcement. Okay, and we're talking about the Gulfway Shopping Center. I was over there yesterday. I had to stop and get something, and they still got palm trees in the middle of the sidewalk there on Air Lane, and you can't get around them if you're in a wheelchair or a walker. Okay, there's 16-inch clearance between the road and the tree, and then the tree and the bunker, the little build-up bunker there by the parking lot. Okay. The American Disabilities Act became law in 1990, yet here in 2015, some 25 years later, we find ourselves in non-compliance with the provisions of the law in the matter of disability access to the places where we vote. Not only there, but out there at Gulfway. Now, there's going to be a hearing, a mediation between Mr. Gordy and the city soon. Mr. Risley said that the city had been grandfathered with that, and they didn't have to take those trees down. And he was asked to provide that document. He hasn't been able to cough it up yet. Okay, so I don't know if it exists. And then when Mr. Gordy asked for that under Public Information Act, then he got about 200 pages or plus of blather down there on the subject. And then there's one page that they don't want him to see, so they've asked for an Attorney General's opinion on that one, to withhold it from him. Okay? So what's that all about? I think I smell a rat downtown. Okay. Then I've got a few minutes to indicate that we're going to have more pollution in the Hillcrest, Washington Coles, and Donna Park area with this port getting bigger. They're going to go ahead and dredge it deeper. They're going to widen the channel. They're going to bring in bigger ships, which means they're going to have more diesels running all day and all night. In order to unload bigger ships, you need more trains, planes, automobiles, and so forth and so on to get that stuff offloaded. And there's going to be a lot more particulates stirred up in the air. So those people over there are in dire straits. And next show I'm going to reveal something that I've been doing to try to cure that problem. And I will go ahead and address that as part of the next show. Okay? And then we've got Shelley Benji, I guess that's the way she pronounces it, lax enforcement of city codes. No joke. I'll talk about Del Mar College next time. I photographed on the last show the high grass over there. They were they should have been down in the environmental court getting their fanny suit off down there like us common citizens and homeowners around here do if we've got tall grass, and have the grass Gestapo, as I refer to them, come into your fenced yard and start measuring your grass the same day that you put a No Chris Adler sign in your front yard when she was running for mayor. That was a real coincidence. Okay? So anyway, and you're right, Shelley, they don't enforce city codes around here. Our grass Gestapo is essentially worthless. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've got about a minute and a half left. I'll take the last minute or 45 seconds to wind down and put the banner back up so you can get my email address. If you need to email me, folks, it's gsansing, S-A-N-S-I-N-G, @gmail.com. Feel free to email me, and I'll give you information about upcoming Taxpayers Association meetings and Board of Regents meetings at Del Mar College, City Council meetings, and so forth. And if you just want to make comments that you want me to put on the air, contact me. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off right quick, and I'll put the banner up and talk to you for roughly a minute.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there is my email address one more time. It's gsansing@gmail.com. Today is Sunday, October the 11th of 2015, and this is the South Texas News and Reviews. I hope I have enlightened you with some of the activities going around as far as Del Mar College goes and the city. I haven't hit the state and the county today, but I should. And if you go into YouTube, if you don't have the cable public access that this is aired on Mondays at 9 o'clock, and I think it's Thursday at 3, then what I can do is you can go into YouTube and stick in Gerald Sansing, there it is, the producer, and these shows will crop up. So y'all have a real good evening, and I'll come back and enlighten you some more. I'm going to let the banner run out.
What we had was a 5-minute gap that we wanted to have in several of our shows on public access TV. And unfortunately, when we looked at the DVD that we had from a board meeting where Dr. Lee Sloan was disparaging our numbers and so forth and so on.
Oh, hold it. Those were his numbers.
Okay, disparaging his numbers that we had reported, then we figured out when I got the copy of the DVD of that meeting that it does have a copyright on the front. So in order not to infringe on anyone's copyright, particularly Del Mar College's, what we're going to do is splice this 5 minutes in and go ahead and discuss what Dr. Sloan was talking about, which was that our numbers, which were his numbers, were incorrect. So I don't understand what's going on, but maybe you can. You're the CPA and accountant.
I would like to say that I can, but doctor, I would be totally lying. So let me explain what I thought he was trying to say.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure what he was trying to say. He said the numbers I used were wrong, even though they appear in his annual financial report.
Okay.
He said you can't use them that way. Well, the numbers I used are the basic accounting formula. Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
Okay.
So that's what I was looking at, the change in equity between 2005 and 2015,
Right.
which was somewhere between 68 and 73 million after restatement and considering the close for this year.
Okay.
So that's the change in equity. And how did equity change? Only one way. Revenues exceeded expenses for that period of time by that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we said because that's what his financial statement said.
Right.
Now, Dr. Stone was saying something about the net position is accumulation of all funds. Well, it will be all funds and all other assets minus all liabilities. That will be what's called net position or equity. We would generally refer to it as equity. So that was part of it, but
Well, let me ask you this: as a person with a BBA, Bachelor's in Business Administration, and a master's degree, not just an MBA, but a master's degree in accountancy.
Masters of Science Accountants.
Okay, all right. And then, what, 30 years now as a CPA?
More than that, actually.
Okay.
More than 30
with
years.
some of the biggest companies around.
With starting out with a big 8 CPA firm,
Okay.
which basically hires the top 10% of the graduates from college.
Okay. Well, let me ask you just very bluntly, yes or no. Did you understand what Dr. Sloan was trying to say?
No.
Okay.
No, I was not able to follow him. I think I know what he was looking at. I couldn't quite interpret it the way he was trying to interpret it. And when he said that you can't look at our financials, which is his financials, he's the
Right.
author.
Right.
He and Mr. Johnson are the authors
Right.
of those financial statements. you can't look at his numbers that way. That's the basic accounting formula.
Okay.
That,
Well,
that's how everybody looks at accounting numbers.
Right,
Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
right,
Revenue minus expenses equals net profit.
Right.
That's how we analyzed it.
well, you know, when I came through, I mean, my mathematics may be lacking with all the way through differential equations and a graduate class in statistics, but still, when I add 2 plus 2, it comes up 4.
And this was clearly arithmetic. This is not math. This is arithmetic.
Okay, all right.
Assets minus liabilities equal equity, which they call net position.
Okay,
Revenue minus operating expenses equal net profit. That's all we were talking about.
that's right.
And
Okay, well, I
what was he
understand
talking
that.
about?
I don't know.
He wasn't talking about that.
No.
And what was he talking about? Well, we've looked at it several times now.
Right.
And I can tell you, I don't know.
Okay. Well, so in order to protect everybody from copyright, and Lord knows I don't want to infringe upon a copyright with Del Mar College on this public broadcast of the Board of Regents meetings that day. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see this, then you can order a copy of the DVD of that particular Board of Regents meeting. I've got one, and that's when we saw the copyright on the label that they did.
And it is available on the internet as well.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they
So-
posted it on the internet.
So if you'd like to try to figure out what this was all about with Dr. Sloan, then please go in and look it up.
And Doctor, I can't figure out what he was saying, but I did catch one thing. We said, based on his numbers, and they are his numbers, that they had increased the equity, which is the net position, over that period of time by somewhere between $68 and $73 million.
Right.
He said, no, we only increased our surplus by $28 million.
Okay.
Okay, now he said only $28 million. As a professor that didn't get a raise for approximately 6 years, does that make you feel much more comfortable that it only increased by about $28 million?
No, not at all. And it's
And,
not.
and,
It's,
and that's not the right number anyway.
Well, it's just not me, but there are an awful lot of good folks over there that needed a raise, folks. They worked their hearts out over there. You know, I mean, here I am, 26, 27 years into this as a second career. But it's a shame when I have people, custodians and so forth, that are fired by Del Mar College, and then several of them are brought back at a lesser amount of money, and they're working their hearts out over there. So that's what galls me.
And when we talk about surplus in a cash flow reference, okay, now what that's going to be is revenue minus expenses minus acquisition of fixed assets such as our 95 acres of land.
Of land that we don't need.
Well, that we're trying to maintain, but the tractor got stuck.
Yeah, it bogs down. When it rains out there, it's a swampland, folks, so they get bogged down.
So I'd like to argue with this set of Dr. Sloan's numbers versus the set that we used.
Right.
But I can attest that the set that we used came right out of his annual report, and they mean exactly what we said they mean. And we checked him. They were his numbers, but we checked them. They made perfect sense to us.
Right.
Now, what he has said here, we've watched it several times, and it still makes absolutely no sense to me.
Okay. Well, I guess we better leave it at that, and I'm sorry for the splice that we have to put into this show, but, you know, stuff happens, and hey.
And if anyone can figure out what he says, if you watch the DVD, email us.
Please. Yeah.
We're very, very interested.
Right. Mine's GSAMSING@gmail.com.
And you can reach me at ed@southtexasmis.com. Thank you.